Sarah Mitchell, 28, tightened her grip on the steering wheel as her old Honda rolled down the cracked asphalt of Conklin Road. She had left Philadelphia behind for quiet, peace, and cheaper rent, but what stretched ahead looked more forgotten than peaceful. On either side of the road, the woods leaned in, dark branches scraping at the fading daylight. Her GPS announced flatly, "You have arrived at your destination." The house was older than the photos had promised, a brick two-story near the ruins of an abandoned textile mill. The real estate agent had called it rustic. In truth, it looked like it had been standing watch over the empty mill for 100 years, and it wasn't winning the fight against time. Sarah pulled into the gravel drive, cut the engine, and exhaled. She was here for a fresh start. New town, new projects, fewer distractions. As a freelance photographer, she wanted to capture rural decay, abandoned spaces, and ghost towns. Conklin seemed perfect. She unlocked the front door, pushed it open, and stepped inside. The smell was old wood and faint mildew. Dust motes swirled in the light from the cracked windows. But it was quiet, comfortably quiet. Or so she thought. That first night, the silence didn't feel peaceful anymore. As Sarah lay in bed upstairs, camera gear stacked neatly by the wall, she heard it, a faint metallic clank from somewhere below. She froze, listening. Maybe the old plumbing, or the wind shaking loose siding. But then came another sound, softer, unmistakable. A voice, it whispered her name, Sarah. She sat bolt upright, heart thundering. The house was locked. The nearest neighbor was half a mile away. The voice had come from the hallway just outside her room. The following morning, Sarah convinced herself it had been a dream, jet lag, nerves, or imagination. She brewed coffee, unpacked boxes, and tried to ignore the way her cats, Luna and Jasper, hissed at the corner of the living room wall. By week's end, the sounds were impossible to dismiss. Sometimes footsteps creaked on the stairs when she was alone. Sometimes she'd hear faint humming in the dead of night, like a child's tune. One evening, as the sun dipped below the tree line, Sarah noticed something odd in the plaster near the floorboards of the living room. A section of wall looked patched, smoother than the rest, almost new. Her cats wouldn't go near it. Curiosity gnawed at her. She fetched a small hammer, chipped at the plaster until it crumbled away, revealing a narrow metal plate set into the wall. Etched faintly on it was a number -1973. Behind it, folded carefully in plastic, was an old scrap of paper. The ink had faded, but the message was clear. Do not wake her. Sarah's stomach tightened. Her, who was she supposed to be? That night, Sarah dreamed. She saw a little girl at the top of the stairs. Blue eyes, pale dress, hair damp as though she'd just come in from the rain. The girl didn't speak, only stared. And when Sarah woke, she swore the wooden toy horse she'd seen in the dream was now sitting in the corner of her room. Uneasy, Sarah headed into town the next day. Conklin was small, with a diner, a library, and a scattering of antique shops. At the library, she pulled up old microfilm records of the 1970s. There it was, a headline from November. 1973. Local girl dies in tragic mill accident. The victim, Emily Hayes, 8 years old, found near the textile mill after reportedly falling into an abandoned shaft. The report was vague. No body was recovered, only her shoes and a doll. Another article mentioned the Hayes family leaving town shortly after without explanation. Sarah printed the articles and tucked them into her bag. The girl in her dream, the pale blue eyes, the damp hair. She matched the description of Emily. That night, Sarah set her voice recorder on the nightstand. A habit from her city life when she used it to capture creative thoughts. The next morning, she played back the recording. Static at first, then a faint rustle, and then, unmistakably, a voice. "Sarah, don't open the door." Her blood ran cold. She replayed the clip again and again. Same words, same whisper. Door, which door? Days blurred into nights. Sarah stopped sleeping. The footsteps grew louder, the whispers clearer. Her cats cowered constantly, hissing at the basement door. Finally, one stormy night, Sarah gave in to curiosity. She grabbed a flashlight, recorder, and camera and opened the basement door. The air that rushed up was damp, sour, like rotting leaves. She descended slowly, each step groaning under her weight. At the bottom, her flashlight beam caught something carved into the wall, words scratched deep. "She sleeps here." Beneath it, a small wooden hatch. Hands trembling, Sarah pulled it open. Cold air poured out, and inside was a narrow crawl space. Dust, cobwebs. And in the center, a small blanket, rotted and damp, covering what looked like a child's form. Her recorder clicked on by itself. Playback began instantly. First static, then giggling, then a high-pitched voice. "Stay with me, Sarah, forever." The blanket shifted. Something inside was moving. Sarah stumbled backward, flashlight flickering. She slammed the hatch shut, bolted up the stairs, and locked the basement door. But as she leaned against it, shaking, she realized something horrifying. Her cats were gone. The police came the next morning, after neighbors reported Sarah screaming through the night. They found the house empty, doors locked from the inside. Sarah Mitchell was never seen again. What they did find was disturbing. Her recorder still running, filled with static and a child's laughter. Dozens of photos scattered across the floor. Photos Sarah had not taken, each showed her asleep in bed. Her eyes closed, while a pale figure stood in the doorway behind her, and in the basement crawl space, the small blanket, beneath it, only dust and an old wooden toy horse. The official report listed her as missing, presumed dead. Locals whispered otherwise. They said the house had claimed another soul, that Emily Hayes, the little girl lost in 1973, still wandered Conklin Road, waiting for someone new to call her name. And if you drive past the old mill on a quiet October night, some swear they hear it too. A soft, childlike whisper carried on the wind. Don't open the door.